Welcome back to Best Behaviour, an initiative brought to you by a coalition of B Corp companies and ESG Clarity to discuss better governance. So in this last video, wrapping up the video series, I'm joined by Michele Giddens, co-founder and co-CEO of Bridges Fund Management. Thanks so much for your time today, Michele.
Hi, Natalie. Good to be with you.
How has the B Corp certification enabled you to build on portfolio relationships and create value for these companies?
Well, Bridges actually became a B Corporation right back in 2015. I think, in fact, that we were one of the first asset managers in the UK to do so. And that really has put us in a helpful position to help guide and to share our own experience of being a B Corporation with those in the portfolio that might be new to the process and considering whether it was right for them. So it's meant that we've been better able to support portfolio companies practically. So as you know, there can be up to about 200 questions in the B impact assessment. And Bridges ourselves has been through all of them. So in our current portfolio, we've got 6 companies that are either certified as B Corporations or awaiting verification, and quite a number of others that we did certify that we have now successfully exited. And we find the benefits to our portfolio companies, they're manifold. One is when preparing for exit, we find it's really attractive to other investors or strategic acquirers to know that the company you're buying has had a detailed ESG assessment and has a high level of ESG activity. We have seen from direct experience that it enables alignment between management and their stakeholders. Interestingly, we've seen that it improves business resilience. So 63% apparently of B Corporations feel that certifying contributed to improving their resilience. And then finally, what's we found really important is at the end of the business, the B impact assessment, our portfolio companies have a really valuable database of sustainability information, and they use that to share with their stakeholders some of the positive things that they're doing for people and planet, which in turn builds brand loyalty, consumer loyalty, and ultimately commercial value in the company.
So how does the certification sit alongside other standards?
Yeah, that's a great question, because all of us managers that are focused on sustainability and impact management do utilize a broad range of standards. And really, we found that the B Corporation certification and the impact assessment does complement other existing standards, such as, for example, SASB or GRI. It provides some questions that go beyond them and aligns very well with them. In fact, Bridges was actually on the UK Standards Board helping B Lab adapt for UK content. And one thing I would say that we do appreciate a lot is that the assessment is adapted for the different countries in which B Corporations exist. I suppose another point is that actually it can be quite intimidating for businesses themselves to start looking at all those different standards they could be following. And we found that the certification or the assessment are kind of a helpful on-ramp for particularly smaller and growth businesses that were wanting to move gradually towards the sorts of regulations that they might ultimately need to deal with as larger businesses. So it helps to make the additional standards that they will move on to more achievable and less intimidating. And finally, I think one really important point that I wanted to make is that you don't need to be a B Corporation to use the B impact assessment tool. And we actually use it far beyond the companies that we choose to work with to certify them. It's a really helpful way for companies to benchmark their entire social and environmental performance and see which parts of the businesses are succeeding, which parts need extra attention. For Bridges, this performance management role of the tool helps us to diagnose all businesses before we make an investment, and has really identified areas for improvement in portfolio companies. And actually, I should mention, even though Bridges is a specialist in this area, it also helped us identify areas for improvement in our own governance, such as, for example, I remember it nudging us to create a policy relating to social and environmental supply procurement, and highlighting the benefits of introducing employee staff surveys, for example.
Okay, yeah, that's so interesting. So we started this series to hear about good governance and its implementation from financial firms and institutions with B Corporation status. But looking to the future, how do you think the B Corp movement fits into the transition to a sustainable and inclusive economy?
Yeah, well, that's a big question, isn't it? I mean, at COP26, we really came together, didn't we, as a group of B corporations to talk about how being a B corporation, changing our articles of association, had helped us to crystallize our approach to what many describe as the triple bottom line of financial, environmental, and social impact of business on society, and in the context of COP, of course, to keep us accountable for our climate commitments. We also really wanted to encourage others to take this, what might be the first step in embracing the opportunity of working with B Corporation, because we have a conviction that a change in governance away from singular shareholder primacy to a wider understanding of impact of companies on all stakeholders is really an essential ingredient to achieving the social and environmental commitments that we need to in the coming decades. We all know that the challenges that we face as people and as a planet are of a magnitude that no single approach is going to have all the answers. But we also know that just starting to take action is key. And the B Corporation is really leading the way in that and helping firms to get started. I suppose finally, one of the key SDGs is about working together, about collaboration, and we do think that collaboration is an enormous importance in the transition to a more sustainable and more inclusive economy. We need to work together and learn from each other what works and doesn't, and that's one of the B Corp values. So that's why the CEOs in the B Finance Coalition, as you know, have made a commitment to help other finance and investment firms CEOs who want to think about whether this might be a helpful approach for them. And we're making ourselves available to discuss our experience in relation to changing governance structures for stakeholder interest, or using the B impact assessment tool to implement change. So I suppose I would just finally say, if you are watching this and you're thinking about whether the B Lab and B approach might be helpful for you, please just don't hesitate to reach out to one of us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. What a great way to wrap up this series. And as Michele says, please don't hesitate to get in touch if you are interested in any of the topics that we've discussed throughout this series. And hopefully we can tap into the interviewees again and find out how the progress has been later in the year. Thank you very much for listening.